All right, our next speaker is Ry Walker, co-founder of Differential, presenting alongside Greg Nyheisel, partner at Differential. Differential is a venture studio that specializes in meteor development. They are heavily involved in Cincinnati's tech startup ecosystem and are one of the leading meteor consulting shops, having launched dozens of meteor apps and authored numerous open source meteor packages. They also lead the Cincinnati Meteor Meetup and co-host the Meteor podcast. Tonight, they are presenting their integration of Meteor with the Polymer library for web components. Please welcome Ry and Greg.
All righty, let's go. Awesome news about Mongo, right? Come on in here. All right, so I'm Ry Walker. This is Greg, and I just wanted to real quick. She gave a great intro of what Differential is, but I have to like just say real quick because everyone knows what Mongo is. Not everyone knows what Differential is. You know, as she said, we're dev shop. We've got 10 developers now. We do equity work for some Meteor startups. We're also building internal products using Meteor. User Cycles, one of them, Assistant, Carp, and yeah, she already told you all the rest of that stuff. So, you know, I'm assuming that not everyone here is a Meteor pro, but you know, with our time on the stage here, we wanted to just explain why we love Meteor as much as we do. First of all, you know, I'm coming from a Rails background. It's beautiful to be able to use one language from the client to the server and in the database. We're JavaScript all day long now, and it really simplifies the world of development for us. The reactive nature of Meteor is obviously a big draw for everybody to come to it. But again, for us, you know, we can build modern, awesome apps with, you know, what I perceive to be about half the time as it used to take us. And obviously the great work with Cordova now that we can build native mobile apps with the same code is kind of mind-blowing. We have to keep remembering how awesome that is. All of a sudden we can all make mobile native apps now. It's a big responsibility, but you know, I think we can take that. And then again, if you're doing Meteor, make sure you really understand the power of Atmosphere and all the packages that are out there. I often say, like, if you're writing a lot of code while building a Meteor app, you're doing something wrong because someone else has probably written some of that code and you don't need to write it all. So the app we're going to demo with Meteor and Polymer is a product called User Cycle. It's a joint partnership with Ash Maurya, the author of Running Lean and Differential. Basically, the idea is that we love cohort-based metrics, and to get this stuff normally, you have to buy an expensive product or you have to have a data scientist. We're making a tool that's free for all web apps, really basic retention, analytics, things like that, because it's a really important thing. I'm big into product development, and so it's a tool we want for ourselves, and it's a tool that, we'll talk more about that later. And I'll let Greg talk a little bit about what Polymer is.
Yeah, so Polymer, we originally were attracted to Polymer because our designer kind of got attracted to the material design that Google's put out. You know, and it is beautiful and everything, so you know, we jumped right on board. So Polymer is just like it's a layer on top of these upcoming, you know, these web component specs down there in the bottom right. Polymer is just some syntactic sugar on top of the specs. So there's a couple new things coming up. Is the custom elements, the HTML imports, templates, and shadow DOM. So the custom elements, really, if you're familiar with Angular, it's kind of like the directives. You can define, you know, elements that you can really, you know, use them just like you would any other HTML element, like a div or span or anything like that. And there's HTML imports, which they're just really just a link tag that'll let you import external resources, external bits of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And then templates are, you know, they're really nothing fancy there. They're a lot dumber than Meteor templates, really. They don't do too much. They're just inert chunks of HTML that you can activate later wherever you need to be. And then there's the shadow DOM, which is just lets you encapsulate bits of your custom elements to be so they don't leak out into the rest of your application, which is nice.
All right, so everyone get that? Got all those memorized? No. It's a pretty complicated domain, what Polymer is, but we're going to show it now rather than just talk about it. So again, so that I didn't shock you, I told you what user cycle was up front. I'm just going to navigate the website, and you're going to describe some of the things that are happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. Let's see. The first kind of thing, like I said, we were initially drawn to like the UI components of that Polymer gives you. So you see these paper ripples, they're called. Everything like you touch is kind of ripply, and it kind of lets you know that you're touching it, especially when you're on a phone. It's kind of important. And you see on these inputs like these floating labels that kind of automatically, as soon as you focus on the input, they kind of raise up so you can still see the label. Really nice looking. Let's see, what was the next one? So yeah, in addition to like these kind of visual ones, they also provide some elements that they provide some like scaffolding kind of features. So like one of them is this core drawer panel. So you can see right there. So on a desktop kind of resolution or size, you can see that it was kind of automatically expanded, and it was just all out there. Smaller screens, it automatically collapses in and becomes, you can swipe through. You can swipe from the side to get it out on a mobile, or touch, and it slides out. So it's real nice. So that, inside of that, there's a core menu. So there's a lot of components that let you kind of it's another scaffolding one. It lets you draw out the menu real easily, and it kind of indents and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry,
yeah.
I screwed that up. Yeah, so that's this little drop-downy thing.
Yeah.
It's all animated very nicely by the people who designed.
And it's all for free,
yeah.
So you don't have to do anything to get all that. So the other one is these paper tabs, which you see has the ripple effect. This one's kind of cool because you can see the routes actually changing as he's kind of tabbing through there. The routes are changing, so we're using a new Meteor package called Bender. You've probably seen it around for the transitions, and we're using Iron Router and some nested layouts, which kind of amount up to this kind of cool little thing. So that's a nice integration between Meteor and Polymer. The core header panel. So you might want to go to a project.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so this core, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not a huge one, but again, it's all for free. So you can see as things slide underneath each other, you get these drop shadows and all this. This is all comes built in, which is nice. There's an element called paper shadow, which you'll see right under there. You can see, so you can just wrap any element in this paper shadow HTML element, and you get this kind of lifted off, appearance, which is nice. So this is a paper progress bar, and what's cool about this is that that's just the HTML element, the paper progress, and you can see that we're using Blaze or Meteor to update an attribute on that element reactively. So the database is
there you are.
So the server's updating a collection which has the progress in it, and then that's reactively being sent down. Blaze takes care of rendering that attribute, and the progress moves on. So the main point here is that it works great with Meteor. There's nothing you have to do extra to get these nice features to work with Meteor. So they play very nicely together.
So this is the shadow DOM that he mentioned on that one slide, the last thing. There's actually a complex HTML structure inside of the tag that you normally don't have to mess around with if you're just consuming these elements. If you're creating them, you have to think about that stuff. So
yeah, but it's all encapsulated, so it doesn't bleed out. None of the script or none of the CSS bleeds out. So you can think of it really just as like a native browser, like a native HTML element.
A really important point to note on this is that Greg and I were not designers. We built this app without a designer. So it looks pretty darn. The homepage a designer was involved with, but like all this other stuff is pretty much programmer driven. Which like all these animations and drop downs, you don't have to ask someone on the front end to work on this stuff. All right, so are we done with all that? Yeah, we had spinner. Yeah, the other little thing, this little spinner. So again, all these things are coming from us for free. So let's look at some code. Let's start with the Bower file.
Yeah, so right now the preferred way to work with Polymer is to use Bower. I think there's a package out there. I don't know. I think all it did was pull in. Just ran Bower and pulled in these three. The top three, they're the Polymer, core elements, paper elements. All you do is just Bower install, and it pulls those in. You have Bower configured to chuck all that stuff into your public directory, which is important because you don't want the Meteor build tool to touch any of these things because there are some overlapping syntax. Yeah. So once you have them imported, once you do a bower install update, pulls them all in, you can use the HTML imports, which is part of the spec. You can pull those in, and then once you have them, this normally goes into like your head tag and your HTML. It pulls them all in, and it does actually separate requests to get all these, which kind of sucks, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. And so you could nest these inside of each other. So you could have one HTML tag that includes other ones. And
right, so they kind of use it as a dependency management tool.
Next file is this one. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's this is actually the layout, one of the Meteor layout files for our dashboard. So you can see there's the core drawer panel. It's actually an HTML element, just like you would do any other kind of element. And it has a bunch of other Polymer.
This thing over here.
Yeah, the core drawer panel kind of encapsulates the entire page, and then within that, you can see that drawer attribute. That's designating that, hey, everything inside of here is part of this sidebar pretty much. And then you can see down, if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see the main, which is like the main content, and that's where Iron Router, you can see where it will do its main yield, which is, so that just yields in like the routes, whatever your templates for that route will just get chucked right in there.
Yep. And so there's a lot of stuff to learn, to understand all these elements. This is not all of them. There's hundreds of them. But I'll just add that the docs from Polymer are pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but they have demos of all of the elements, and it's pretty easy to understand what they do once you go through that. So let's see. Let's jump back into this. So cool that we have a library of elements. Even cooler is that it's a framework for making your own elements. So this is this is all it takes to make and again, this is all an HTML5 spec. This is not like a framework, right? So I think it's important to distinguish between what HTML standards are and what a framework are. Frameworks are maybe going to go away. It's pretty hard to get rid of a HTML5 standard. So this is so there's you just define a template and a script that feels a lot like how Meteor works, right? You have a couple of different pieces, but then you have this little tag at the bottom that you can include. So if we were to embed this in our code right now, hello tag just renders a div inside of it that says hello. But from the outside view, it just looks like a tag.
Right. So normally, right there in that Polymer function, you would pass some arguments, which are object hashes of a bunch of other things, and you can actually set up event handlers, listeners. What is it like? You can actually data binding, two-way data binding, which is cool. So it's a little bit overlap right there with what Meteor already does for you. So there's not a whole lot of need to do that, but
I think it's good to show so. These elements emit events just like anything else on your page. So maybe you could talk about core responsive change. I don't even know what that one does.
So I mean, you can these all emit standard events just like any other kind of any other tag would. This core responsive change, that's an event that's emitted by the core drawer panel when the screen gets too small to do it. So on that event. We're doing something. I don't know. But,
what are we doing?
But the bottom line is that the events can be listened using the event map, Meteor's event map, just like normal. Nothing to worry about.
So what are the risks with Polymer? For one, it's pre 1.0. Anyone have any experience with a pre 1.0 framework? Yeah, it's cool. It's moving fast. But there are breaking changes, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to get behind, and then it sucks to get behind. So and the Google, so Polymer is a Google project. They're moving really fast. They literally sit in the same room as the Chrome team, so everything they do in Polymer gets integrated as natively functioning in the latest Chrome releases. So it's kind of cool. Like if you're using the stuff in Chrome, it's going to be super fast. But however, it doesn't work in old browsers at all, which is a bummer. But any of these browsers that are now, they call them evergreen, will be working either through a shim library or eventually natively.
Right, so we kind of skipped over that before, but Polymer does include a polyfill library to backfill these older browsers that don't have the spec completely implemented natively.
Yeah.
There's a nice chart on their site that shows you what's implemented natively on all the browsers and what's covered by the polyfill.
Yeah. Another little annoyance is that Safari is you have to do some extra CSS work that's kind of just routine.
It's really just a duplicate. It doesn't support this deep combinator, which you can use to kind of pierce the shadow DOM to style the inner pieces. But
and then
it's not that bad.
I don't know how W3C politics work, but like I don't think these other browsers have to implement any of this stuff. So maybe this dies someday because only Chrome wanted it and everybody else blocked them. Right now, Safari literally, they actually took away some support, but they're claiming that's in preparation to doing it right, so to re-implement it. So they took away some old implementation of this stuff. So yeah, one more thing. So it's cool that it works on web apps, but what else is really cool is that this stuff is actually like the material design spec is, what did I do wrong? Oh, it's coming.
Yeah.
All right. The material design spec is really around mobile devices. So this is another app we're working on. So we're actually working on 3 projects right now that use Polymer plus Meteor. And so this is just a mock-up. This isn't a fully functioning app. But you can see the same features that we were seeing in the web app are working here. Well, kind of working here. What's up with that? Interesting. We'll skip that one. It worked before I plugged it into this thing. And yeah, maybe it was here that I was doing that. Yeah? Oh yeah, you have to type for it to pop up there. So these controls work on mobile apps as well as web apps. These animations are really smooth. Obviously, even on iPhone, which is running Safari's browser, it feels pretty smooth. On Android devices, it's going to be even better because it's using Chrome. And these little animations are all free. They're all part of the library. So we're excited about our ability to build mobile apps using this stuff without having to think about any of these animations, because their implementation of the UI features are pretty complete. So, yeah. So we're building mobile apps now. Yay. All right. So, yeah. Do you want to talk about Vulcanize?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, you end up.
Sorry.
No, doesn't matter. You end up, when you use all these HTML imports, it's actually making a lot of subsequent HTTP requests back to your server or anywhere to get the new components. The Polymer team has a NPM package called Vulcanize, which actually will look through an index or your index file and kind of see all the dependencies you need, and then traverse those and get all the dependencies those need, and concatenate those all into one output file. So we built a package for that. It's called Vulcanize. Pretty clever. And what it'll do is all it does is it hooks into the Meteor build tool chain, and then kind of if there's an environment variable set called Vulcanize, if you run if you put the environment variable Vulcanize equals true before you run Meteor build or Meteor or a modulus deploy or anything like that, it will go ahead and tap in and then Vulcanize and then insert that output file into your head. So you only make one request.
Yeah. So it reduces the number of requests. So finally, we covered a lot of stuff here. I posted a lot of the links on a blog post. So if you go to our blog, you can follow along some of this stuff. And I'd implore all of you, if you have an app with users, which all of you have apps with users because Meteor kind of has that built in, love to get feedback on user cycle. Go join and help me make that a great product. Finally, yeah, we're hiring here in Las Vegas, and then other people in major markets. And San Francisco, yeah. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we have a couple minutes for questions if anyone would like to ask one. Dan?
Okay.
So the integration seems pretty light. Do we need any atmosphere packages or just?
It just works. I mean, oh yeah, so do we need any extra packages to do integration? And the answer to that's no. You just have to use that. You have to use Bower to generate the files to be in your public directory, And yeah, we really had, I mean, I was actually shocked how easy it was to get it to work with Meteor. It's kind of a testament to Meteor that, I mean, at the end of the day, these are just HTML tags, so Meteor works pretty well with HTML tags.
Question. So let's say you need some more advanced widgets, like grids or whatnot. Can you style them with Polymer and Meteor, or how do they play with other widgets?
Yeah, so how do you, like, if it's a more complicated widget, how would that work is the question, I think. Is that a
third-party widget, because they don't implement all the widgets.
Yeah, okay, third party. So like, I like to use the example, like MailChimp could create a MailChimp tag that is a Polymer element that you just pop it in, add some attributes to it, and it would actually execute all the JavaScript. Maybe it would use Ajax to send the data on the back end. It would be isolated. The functionality would be isolated from any your app. You could drop that into an Angular app or a Meteor app or anything. So these components can be extremely complicated. They have a component that drops the entire Google Maps, you know, a Google Maps instance in with just a tag. So I think that's pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
Last question.
There was talk before about drawbacks of using Polymer in terms of it making lots of extra costs and demanding extra JavaScript stuff.
Yep.
So you guys wrap that with your Vulcanized thing? Or
Yeah.
wrap someone else's Vulcanized thing?
Yeah, so the question was the many requests problem. Yeah.
Yeah, so Polymer actually released an NPM package called Vulcanize. So all the package does is it just taps into the Meteor's build system. So if you want to Vulcanize it, all we do is just run the Vulcanize stuff. And we just kind of...
Does that just Vulcanize existing Polymer components, or if I create my own components,
Yeah.
It's really independent of the components themselves. So it will look for, all it does is look at the HTML imports, and then we'll just go through all those and then find all their dependencies and just throw them all into one file.
Yeah.
And then...
So if I create Polymer,
Yeah, so in this case, we have some DI specific.
Yeah.
We've written a few, and yes, it does them all. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And by the way, there's other, like Mozilla has an Xtags library. There's a lot of, there are other component people. There's probably 1,000 components out there already. So yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.